Hi, well, we're at 10,000 subs, or at least I assume we are. I'm recording this before I'm at that point, but not very far before at that point. So what I was asked to do was basically talk about something about the channel in terms of where it's going for as well. So that's as good a place to start. So where it started just over a year ago. I didn't really know what I was doing, if I'm going to be honest. I sort of knew that I wanted a channel where I discuss things of interest. Not myself. I don't want to be that army of people who just wants to vlog about their day, put it online and just assume that they're interested enough to carry it. A very small number of people maybe have interesting enough lives. No, none of that nonsense. And I'm an intensely political animal. And so, you know, it was inevitably, whatever I talk about in terms of everyday events is inevitably going to have a political slant on it. Hence, the title of the channel was fairly easy to come through. But I still didn't really know. I was like, the intention was going to be, you know, just every Sunday, whatever has caught my attention the most in that week, just talk about that. But then every time I sat down today, I thought, is this right? Is this what I want to do? Because I was talking about just things and what I thought of them. And there's always, as I say, you know, because there's politics in everything. I certainly see politics in everything. And then much later on, obviously, Brexit started to become more of a thing. And I did a video on that did very well. And then a little bit later I did another one. And it was quite clear that those ones were doing quite well and other ones not so well. And then in December, I just basically thought to myself, do you know what? I mean, you know, I spend a lot of time discussing with various people online and in real life events and from, you know, a political point of view. But I also spend a lot of time talking about what actual politicians are doing. And that would probably be a reasonable focus, actually discussing what I think politicians, the people who are actually running our governments and parliaments and around the world, but most especially in Britain, are doing. Yeah, that could be a focus. And I was, at that point, I was much more comfortable about doing more regular content rather than feeling, does this detract from the channel? Does it make any sense? Because nothing was making any sense at that point. So at the start of the year, I started to do that and I was releasing content each day because all of a sudden it became straightforward to do that. Now, I'm under no illusions whatsoever. The channel didn't really, you know, I started it last February. By the end of December, so, you know, like nearly a year later, there were fewer than 1,000 subscribers. And most of the ones that had come a result of the Brexit video. So it was fairly obvious what I was going to be spending most of my time on. And I'm very well aware there's like a trifactor at work here. The first is that I am now uploading every day. It's very, very easy for me to do that now. I do spend hours, I always have. Ever since I've been in my late teens, I've spent quite a lot of time discussing, reading articles, reading things about politics. It's a lot easier now because we have the internet. At the time, you know, that was, I mean, it existed, but access to it was much more limited. It was mostly going and reading books from the library and discussing things with friends. And now we can add the internet into there. So there's a huge amount of information. But it's also very important you need to read a lot of it so you can get these different viewpoints and see how things have been reported to people so that you can then try and understand someone's point of view. Because that's the thing. If I'm trying to talk to a Sun reader, you know, ordinarily just my mind would be blown. But I just, you know, if I know what the Sun are telling them, then I go, okay, I know what you're talking about now, sort of. And so, yeah, the fact that I'm uploading every day obviously has helped the channel grow a great deal. Then there's the second thing, which is that it's about Brexit. More specifically, it's about a topic, a single political topic. Every now and then, like I'm doing on the Sundays now, I'm doing a video on something else because there are other aspects to politics. But Brexit is, for me, the most important political event in my life and ever likely to be. And so obviously it's going to be the thing I'm spending most of my time reading about, talking about, and therefore natural to put on the channel as well. But it's also the thing that a lot of people come into the channel for. And when you've got this single topic, you know, the internet can be a bit of an echo chamber. So I'm under no illusions. The majority of people who are watching my stuff and approve of it are going to be people who agree with me on it. There are lots of people who don't agree with me on it. Some of them, absolute troopers, watch it anyway and, you know, and write comments and things like that. But, you know, they're going to be in the minority on this channel. And so then you think to yourself, okay, at some point, Brexit isn't going to be a daily topic. I've talked about this before. So in terms of the future of the channel, it's not going to be a daily topic. It's not that I'm going to be struggling of things to think of, because I'm no more political now than I was 5 years ago or 10 years ago or 20 years ago. And so there's plenty of things I will still talk about, but it'll be a range of topics and some people will be more or less interested in them. So that's a challenge for the future. Will it continue? It won't continue to grow at the same rate. How can it? Will it continue to grow? Time will tell on that one, because there'll be a situation where someone will go, okay, I agree with you on that, but I don't agree with you on that. A couple of classic examples I like to use to try and illustrate this point, because I always say if you get any two intelligent people in a room to just discuss politics or discuss anything, they might agree with each other for ages. There's going to come a point where they disagree with each other, probably quite strongly. So take Michael Heseltine. He was a former Conservative Party candidate. He lost out to John Major, and he was in Margaret Thatcher's cabinet, for example. And as such, I would not have approved of him as Prime Minister. But I did approve of what he's been saying over Brexit. And that's a simple situation. I agree with everything he has said on Brexit, but I disagree with his politics on domestic issues. Fundamentally disagree with him. Although I, at least in his case, will label him as someone who at least genuinely believed in his own politics. He's not someone who would say one thing and do another, at least, which some politicians do. Because, I mean, that's the thing. Some politicians I fundamentally disagree with, but they are at least honest with themselves and their public, and some of them are not. They know that what they're doing is wrong, and they do it anyway. But they say that they're not. They say that they're doing the opposite. For example, like saying they're putting more money into the NHS when actually they're taking it out. Things like that, not so honest. So, you know, and that feeds into it as well, because obviously when I'm spending a lot of time reading articles on Brexit, reading what people are saying about it and all the rest of it, I'm reading things that are going, okay, you know, I can do a video on that, I can talk about that. And then, but I'll read something else in the same article and think, oh, but that'd be a different video, I can do something about that as well. And, you know, see, it all feeds into the making it easier to upload every day as well, because it's a more efficient way of doing it because you're doing it on a single topic. And then the third factor, I think ultimately, is as we've got nearer to what we believe is the Brexit endgame, more and more people are interested in that single topic. And then potentially people who might not look up political news are still searching things on the internet and may come across it. And I think all these three things, just the regular uploads, which will continue, there's no doubt about that, but that nonetheless was not in evidence before the start of this year. The fact that it's on a single topic, or most of it is on a single topic, but that will, over time, not necessarily imminently, but it may. I mean, who knows? Because I don't know. That's why with the polls, I'm going to keep feeding in non-Brexit topics. You guys are going to tell me when it's time to move on, because I'm going to be putting in topics in polls, and a little word about that actually in the second part of this video. And you're going to tell me, because at some point you're going to say, actually, I'm bored with Brexit now. Talk about this. And I will do. And then the third thing, of course, is the fact that there's a huge amount of interest in this one topic. Now, when I do it on other topics, they're not necessarily all going to be hot button topics. They'll be newsworthy, they'll be topical, but you're not necessarily going to have everyone as interested in it as maybe interested in Brexit right at this moment. So those are what I would see as the three challenges for the future. But at the end of the day, I can look at the channel, I can try and improve it where I can, but we're just going to have to wait and see on that one, is how I would view that. I would view it as the rate of growth may not remain. It'd be brilliant if it did, but it may not. But if it keeps growing, then that'd be fantastic. Because this, I mean, it's vaguely embarrassing for me that something that has been my main passion in life as a hobby, you know, as a discussion point, I haven't thought of doing a channel on before. Absolute madness. I've done a couple of channels before. Nothing like this. You know, I think in a couple of months' time, this is going to be the largest channel I've ever had. And it's incredible that I haven't thought about it before. But I didn't. There we go. Right, so on to the second thing now. So another thing, which I've been tantalised about, there were quite a lot of people sort of suggesting doing a Patreon channel, to like a side thing to this. So we're ready. I'm ready to go with that now. I'll be launching that. In fact, at the point of this gone out, it will have launched at pretty much the same time. What it isn't, I'll just caution this. What it isn't is a way of transferring content from this channel to behind a paywall. It's not. You know, the videos for this channel will still be on this channel as they are now. What it's for, first of all, if people want to just support the channel, you know, with extra, they can do. But in terms of what's going to be on Patreon, it's things that I wouldn't be comfortable with putting on here. Now, there's two types of content. Politics is, by its nature, fairly divisive. I have never made any claim. In fact, that word up there sort of gives you the clue. I've never attempted to be objective as such. At the same time, I don't lie. I don't tell lies when I'm discussing something. I always feel that if someone feels the need to tell a lie, they don't believe in their own argument. You know, the mark of someone who doesn't believe in their own argument is they feel the need to lie to win the argument. They don't believe in the strength of their own argument. And secondly, they will not listen to counter views. If you won't have your own views challenged, you don't believe in them strongly enough. And it's that simple. So I don't tell lies. But at the same time, I don't rack my brains and make sure, oh, have I made it absolutely balanced? Because the problem with that, you see it in the media, don't you? When some media actually try to be balanced, what do they do in the name of balance? They make sure they give equal billing to someone that doesn't deserve to be in the debate at all. There are some things where the issues are finely balanced. It's relatively easy then as a news channel, I think, to be objective. Not that that's what this is. But when they're not, and you bring someone in just for the sake of balance, then you distort it. So, for example, when you do an article and you give just as much time spent to talking about the People's March yesterday as Nigel Farage's pub crawl, that's not balance. That is distorting the view. You're projecting the impression that it is balanced, that the points are balanced, that there's equal numbers and equal arguments on either side. And that's not always the case at all. So yeah, that's not what I'm not going to do. That I have my biases, I have my prejudices. I'm more than happy to have people challenge them, but they remain. And if someone actually catches me out on something, I will rethink it. But you know, and that's simple. I'm not afraid to rethink things as well. So, but there are topics in politics that are quite divisive. They're quite sensitive. They would, shall we say, fall foul of the YouTube algorithm. Some of them already do. Like, there's quite a few times when I do videos that get demonetized, for example. Some of them, well, they usually get monetized back again. I've only had one that hasn't. But nonetheless, you know, it's almost like they might as well have kept it demonetized, because at the end of the day, it typically takes a couple of days. Sometimes it's taken longer for it to be reviewed and then them said it's okay. And if that happens, you've lost it anyway, because most people that watch a video most of the views you'll get for a video, unless it goes viral, that's not happening, are going to watch it in the first 24 hours. You get a decent number over the next 24 hours and then it tails down quite dramatically. So yeah, you've got, you know, so if you get it, you know, re-monetized 2 days later, thanks very much. It's like, it's gone, forget it. So there are going to be some topics where I just know that's going to happen. In fact, there'll be some topics where it won't pass the review. There'll be no point in me reviewing it because I know that it will fall foul of YouTube's guidelines. Now, those topics can be discussed on Patreon. That would be. I'm not expecting a huge deluge of them. Again, it will depend on patrons to sort of say they want to talk about certain things. But what it means is that for those sort of topics, I can put them there. Now, there may be some suggestions patrons come up for topics for videos that are not as controversial, and they'll still make it to YouTube. If it's not if it's not the sort of thing that's going to fall foul of YouTube, it'll still be there for everyone to see. But then the other type of content is live streaming. Now, discussing things live is a brilliant experience on the internet. You know, I have done this, which means I've also got form on this, and I also know several of the pitfalls. If you just do live streaming, normal public live streaming, you've got a number of problems with that. First of all, the potential for trolls. Now, with something like politics, it's surely going to be inevitable. And there is no solution. People keep saying things like, oh, well, you've got a large, just find a few moderators, they can take care of it. Problem with that is, first of all, I don't know who of you will be suitable. I'm quite sure several of you would be. I don't necessarily know. We'd have to make sure we're agreed upon what I would consider acceptable and what is not, what I would consider trolling and what is not. I'm quite liberal on those matters. But that doesn't solve the problem. That is just putting out fires, but the fires keep starting. If people are determined to keep trolling you, and you've got a lot of people willing to do that, it does. I've seen it on people's streams, and when it's one or two, yes, you can deal with it. But even that throws it. Even that does spoil it a little bit. But if there's a lot coming across it, and the hope would be with growing a channel, you would get a lot, then it will be endless. And then there's the other problem. So not even counting potential for trolls, if it becomes very popular and successful, you've then got too many. There's I've found with doing live streams on like a gaming channel that there's a sweet spot. There's a number of people, and of course most people who watch don't actually type in the thing. They're mostly just watching. But there is a sweet spot of a number of people that will keep a conversation going at a good pace, below which I feel I have to keep throwing more things in which case you wonder if there's any point in doing it live, because you need that interaction for it to be worth doing live, and above which it becomes really difficult. You lose control because there's too many people there. And then what's the only solution on YouTube? That is that people have to then pay to get their question noticed. And obviously I would want it to become popular, so it needs to, at some point it has to become exclusive anyway. So I've done new Patreon for that. Now, what I've tried to do to be super fair on it, so that people don't have to chip in very much at all. So the way I've done the categories, and you'll be able to see it on the Patreon page. So there's a $1 entry. That's just generally thanks for supporting the channel, but they won't take part in live streams. But at the same time, when I've done those live streams, they will be able to watch them later. $2 get to take part in a monthly live stream. It may increase from monthly at some point, but for now I'm just going to say monthly. What I need to make sure is, especially for the interest of not detracting from the YouTube channel, which is going to want to be my main platform. So once a month for now, an exclusive live stream, and they will get to take part and all the rest of it. And then $5 entry with people who will get to take part in more frequent live streams. The aim would be each week, but I'm just going to say several times a month, because the aim would be to do it at a weekend, to try and do it at a time where as many people as possible from the sort of general demographics, which are largely Europe-based. It gets more awkward if you also get a number of people watching from the United States. But then again, the weekend helps with that as well. And so yeah, the intention would be weekly. That being said, if there's a weekend when I'm away, which every now and then does happen, like for example the first weekend in May, I'm not going to be home, then I won't be able to do it, of course. So it's just to take account of that. So that is, as I say, for people who do want either some of that content or just want to support the channel in other ways, and hopefully encourage it to grow. But just in terms of the future of the YouTube channel, as I say, I'm just going to keep doing what I'm doing for now. Anyone's got any suggestions, do throw them down. I do listen to suggestions, and some people have suggested things which I've already put into place. And I'll keep thinking about it myself in terms of how I improve things, especially, as I say, when I need to transition from doing Brexit most of the time to doing other varying political topics. But the focus of the channel, at least I've now got in my head, is on effectively politicians, the politics of politicians. Makes more sense, don't you think? I think so. I think so. So anyway, thanks again for helping us hit 10,000. It's exciting times in all ways. It's also quite scary times. I keep having to pinch myself and remember that although it's good in a way, I'm very pleased about the growth of the channel, it's come on the back of something quite terrible. But hopefully we'll move on from that. Politics is mostly terrible, let's face it, after all. It's essential, but terrible. Can't live with it, can't live without it. But thanks very much for the support anyway, and hopefully it will continue to grow. So until next time, I'll see you later.